Today, Dr. Ashley Bryant and Cynthia Stafford share strategies for processing grief with so much happening in your day. This Polaris video was made possible by the American Nurses Foundation.
One of the first principles I'd like to discuss today is about acknowledging the loss. And I'm about to read to you a journal entry from a widow, and this is 6 months into her grief work from the loss of her husband. I'm learning that the best way to get to the other side is to go through it, to face it and to name it, to accept the pain and deal with it as directly as I can. I'm also finding, to my surprise, that there are frequent stretches of days without tears, and any feelings of despair have been only fleeting.
It's important to make sure as a healthcare clinician that we acknowledge the loss to that patient's family. We know that this is a difficult time for them. And one thing that oftentimes patients, family members come back and share with us was that no one even acknowledged that my loved one died and how special they were to me. So let's continue to move forward with making sure that we acknowledge the loss of the loved one. I would say the second one would be being able to allow the caregiver to express themselves in their emotions, however that may be for that individual. I also think it's important for us to think of the cultural component of that, that different people express themselves differently, and being open and non-judgmental in how someone expresses themselves is particularly important as healthcare providers. I also think exploring with that individual what works for them. And so respecting that and being there to listen is key.
My thoughts are another principle is that it's really important to use rituals to remember who that person was and also who that person continues to be to me. Centuries ago, when a loved one died, women would wear black and men would wear black armbands to remind those around them that they were in the process of grief. I have a colleague that's working through grief of the loss of a parent. There's a lot of people walking around every day that are in the process of grief, and she would like to know who they are so that she could reach out with more understanding. There are other things that we can do, such as letting those balloons go with people that we love. It really is in community that we begin to heal, where that person walks beside me as I grieve, or I'm walking beside somebody else as they grieve.
And how we are grieving when this is all happening. Steady lives are happening. We're still having to pay bills. You may be a caregiver of children or of adult parents, and being able to allow yourself that opportunity and the time to grieve. That's important.
You had that wonderful article about PACE, and the P stands for presence. And I think that's very important, that we're just present and mindful about our grief.
A, which is active listening. So being an active listener when someone is talking with you. That means being fully present. Your pager or your cell phone may be going off, but allowing yourself to really be an active listener with that person. And C is compassion. We must have compassion for those who have lost someone, and we must have compassion for ourselves as well. Yeah. And lastly is E, which means being empathetic. That means oftentimes we're taking on those emotions and those feelings of what someone else is experiencing. And oftentimes we're experiencing it as well, but we may not externally express that in tears or with crying or with moaning, whatever that may be for you. So I think it's important as we think of PACE, P-A-C-E, we have to really pace ourselves as clinicians, but also making sure we're present, we're active listeners, we're compassionate, and we're empathetic.
We hope you enjoyed this discussion. To learn more, download our resource guide about processing grief with so much happening in your day.